as soon as we signed off on our Sunday show, so this would have been almost a week ago, it was announced that the Cornel West campaign hired Peter Daou as its campaign manager. Cornel tweets out, "I'm so very blessed to have my dear brother Peter Daou as my campaign manager. I welcome him to our campaign and movement. We will work together for truth and justice." Here's the announcement they put out. We don't have to read the whole thing here. Presidential candidate Cornel West today welcomed Peter Daou to his presidential campaign in the role of campaign manager. A respected activist, advisor, writer, and musician, Daou has more than 20 years of national political experience and was described by the New York Times as one of the most prominent political bloggers in the nation. He has advised major progressive organizations and has held senior positions in several Democratic presidential campaigns. Daou has been an independent since 2020 and supported the Green Party in the 2020 election. Howie Hawkins, yes. Before entering the political arena, Daou was a prolific keyboardist and remixer, appearing on recordings by artists including Miles Davis, Diana Ross, Janet Jackson, and Mariah Carey. He says it's an honor to be a part of Dr. West's historic campaign for president. Dr. West is a man of deep personal integrity, great accomplishment, and far-reaching vision. Okay, so as we all know, and look, we all know who Peter Daou is. I could have, brought up a million tweets of his through the 2016 cycle and after. One of the most militant, vicious Hillary Clinton, David Brock junkyard dogs. Just a profound bone-deep hatred of the Bernie campaign and the Bernie movement and the Green Party as well at the time. Here's just this kind of sums it up. 26 years in Congress for Bernie is establishment. Doesn't mean he's bad, but first woman POTUS is not establishment. So there he is making the argument. Hillary Clinton was the anti-establishment choice in 2016 because she's a woman. Right.
Nice. Love
exactly. Yeah. Tonally, that's one of the more benign bangers that he fired off in that cycle. But that kind of reflects just, how shallow a guy he was at the time. Now, sorry, I don't mean to jump the gun here. So anyway, we all know, I don't have to bring up all the screenshots of the different tweets. Obviously, CJ said, that's it, I'm done with the Cornel campaign. He got a lot of pushback for this move. And so Jill Stein thought it necessary to make known that it was she who recruited Peter Daou into the campaign because she was serving as Cornel's interim campaign manager when he was first getting started. And then she took it upon herself to hire the more official long-term staff. So she says, newsflash, it was me that brought Peter Daou to Cornel West. Why? Because I learned how essential an experienced campaign manager is for my campaigns without one. He's the most experienced campaign manager I know of with independent green politics and strong opposition to duopoly. Now, here's where it gets even. This is the worst one, and we'll come back to this in a moment. Though I didn't know of Peter Daou in his days as DNC defender, it's not hard to see how a war-torn, bloody childhood led to fierce opposition to Bush and bondage to the Dem Party. If only more liberal apologists would have this kind of wake-up. With an experienced campaign manager, our team can give Cornel West the support he needs to break the duopoly and give all those thrown under the bus reason to fight back. So you're telling me that you didn't know of him in his days as a DNC defender?
She's lying. In my opinion, she's lying.
That has to be a lie. That just has to be a lie. And at worst, that is just insane negligence and incompetence. So what are you saying? You don't vet the campaign manager? Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, people are trying to justify it by saying that she didn't know him then, and she knows him now, so maybe she's vetted him now, but she's saying she wasn't aware of him at that time. I think she's lying. You have to be lying. He led the smear campaign against you. He was, as you just said, one of the most vicious attack dogs. Dude worked hand in hand with David Brock for years. He is the guy that came up with Bernie Bros, and Bernie's a Russian agent, and Bernie's a sexist, and all of his supporters are sexist, and all of those smears that happened in the 2015, 2016 campaign, all the smears against Jill Stein about how she's responsible for Donald Trump, all of that stuff. That was Peter Daou. That was Peter Daou. That's who he was. You're telling me you didn't know who he was, I have a very difficult time believing that.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to think that she didn't know.
Everybody
and if she
knew.
didn't know of him then she's obviously not aware of just how divisive a choice this is now.
Yes.
Like, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, you want to say, okay, you vetted him now in retrospect. Well, if you really looked into it, you'd have known
should know
this guy is just too toxic to put in charge of the campaign. Whether you think his transformation is legitimate or not, I'm all about redemption and second chances. That's almost besides the point.
Yeah.
The point is, that even getting this guy involved with the campaign is going to drive a wedge right through whatever coalition Cornel West is trying to build.
Yes.
To put him in charge of the campaign.
He spent years. The Cornel West base would be Bernie's supporters, right? That's like the people. That's the base of. And this guy spent years trashing those people. I mean, to the highest degrees. An entire smear campaign that lasted for years. 4 years, not just the 2015, 2016 campaign. He continued to trash people for years following that. And this is the guy that you chose to put in charge of Cornel West campaign. You have just divided your base in half, and you have created such a major distraction. Look, since this has been announced, nobody's talking about Cornel West policies. They're talking about Peter Daou. And that is such a monumental political miscalculation. It is, it's ridiculous. The idea that anybody thought that this was, we need an experienced campaign. You need, first of all, he's never won a campaign.
He's a loser.
Lots of them.
John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, Marianne Williamson.
Progressives, the little he's never won, not one single time. You need an experienced campaign manager who's never won and has an incredibly divisive history. Tell me how that makes sense. It doesn't.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely absurd. Also, he started this cycle as campaign manager for Marianne Williamson, which is a Democratic campaign.
After swearing off Democrats.
Right. After swearing off Democrats, a Democrat campaign, a pro-NATO campaign, a pro-World War III campaign. Her position on the Russia-Ukraine war is pretty much identical to Joe Biden's. And so if this guy's convictions are so deeply held, why did he take a job with the Marianne Williamson campaign at the start of this cycle? If one of the main pillars of Cornel's campaign is disband NATO, then why are you recruiting this guy who was just, as of a few weeks ago, on the Marianne campaign? Makes no sense. So then Cornel apparently wants to vouch for her. So he says, serious revolutionaries keeps the focus on suffering and struggling of everyday people who fight against empire capitalism, white supremacy, male supremacy, homophobia, transphobia. Superficial ones cater to their individual careers, market opportunities, and personal polemics that bring attention only to themselves.
That second part, he just described Peter Daou's entire career. That second part.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was Peter Daou.
I think he was directing that at Jimmy Dore, it seems like, right?
100%.
I mean, that seems like a pretty targeted swipe there. Yeah. But yes, you're right. That does describe Daou in a nutshell. Number one. Number two, serious revolutionaries keep the focus. Serious revolutionaries are very protective of their movement. They don't allow shady characters in. This would be like Che Guevara going to Fidel Castro being like, hey, I found this new general. Didn't his father used to own one of those tobacco plantations? Yeah, but that was a few years ago. He seems cool now, right? Like I think he's good. I checked him out, right? So like this just, I mean, it's just insane. Serious revolutionary, a serious presidential campaign vets their campaign manager. They vet the campaign manager. And you could say, oh, you did some research on him. You didn't know him back then. And now you know. You clearly do not understand the seriousness of just how divisive a pick like this is. To put him in charge of the campaign is just nonsense. And it's really another heartbreaker because, look, Cornel West, there was a poll that came out just now in Iowa, has him pulling at 5 points in Iowa. And that's great. And look, I wish the campaign well, but I'm not at a point now where I can advise people to get invested in this. How can I vouch for a campaign that is so reckless at worst and reckless at best and dishonest at worst? Shut that guy up. I don't know who he is.
Welcome to another edition of the Post-Duopoly Show, a slimmed down version of the Post-Duopoly Show. We got one rep from each of the camps. I'm representing RBN. We got Kit representing HardLens Media. And we got Keaton representing Dissidence.
I'm feeling enraged and depressed and angry. Look, after seeing your report and so many other people's coverage on the Peter Daou situation, because I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about that too. Even I'm having a hard time saying, hey, guys, get invested with Dr. Cornel West campaign because the fox is in the hen house. What could possibly go wrong? I see this campaign becoming mediocre and milquetoast at best. And this is no disrespect to Dr. Cornel West. I do respect his work and his words. It's just, Jesus, of all the people, you could have just brought in a new person, somebody who maybe just got started in the game, not a 3-time loser, 4-time loser. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? That's my intro. Sorry, Keaton, go ahead.
No, that's a good intro because I do want to talk about Peter Daou. So welcome to Keaton also, and also comment, give your initial thoughts. I know it was kind of said in that video, but you can have a refresher, and we're gonna discuss in our intro because we hadn't had a chance. We haven't been together. It's been kind of wonky the last couple of times.
Agreed.
So I was interested in getting a short little conversation about Peter Daou now being the campaign manager. We've all done our individual sort of content. So let's come together and discuss this. So Keaton, how's it going? And also your first initial comments on the pick by the Cornel West camp.
It's going okay, friends. Great to see you all again. Yeah, my take is very much in line with what Nick said to Marianne when you guys interviewed her, several months back now. He asked, look, if the working people of the progressive movement burned $100 million on the Bernie Sanders campaign, why should we invest in your campaign? And one of the reasons why I thought that was such a great question is because of the place it was coming from in terms of the perspective of the people who are going to fuel the actual movement, or in this case, the Cornel campaign. And so the same fundamental question applies here. It's not that I don't have respect and admiration for the man himself, but it's a question of, can I direct my audience to invest in the campaign? In order for me to tell people to invest in the campaign, I have to trust that their investment is in good hands with the campaign. And as you guys just watched in that video, to have Cornel seemingly completely checked out of these processes altogether. I mean, by the campaign's own admission, Cornel didn't have anything to do with bringing in Daou. He left that to Jill Stein, who then brings in Peter Daou and then says, I wasn't aware of him during the 2016 campaign. I didn't know who he was at the time, which seems like bullshit, if I'm being completely honest. But at best, I have to ask, well, where the hell were you? Like, where were you? Everybody in this space knew who he was at the time. And you supposedly vetted him after the fact, right? You vetted him before you hired him, right? So if you vetted him before you hired him, then didn't you know how divisive this was going to be? Even if you believe all the best about Peter Daou. And look, I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption, all of that. I do believe Peter Daou has soured on the establishment Democratic Party. I believe that because people don't leave the two-party system for the money. They don't. There's a lot of money in the two-party system. A lot. I know people who have fundraised inside the Democratic Party. The gig flow is amazing. It's one on top of another on top of another, and they all pay very well. So you don't ostracize yourself from that ecosystem for the money. So fair enough. Let's say he's had a change of heart and he's soured on the Democrats. All right, even if we buy all that, which for argument's sake, I'll say I buy all of it. You still have to anticipate how divisive a pick this is going to be. Because even if you buy it, even if you give him the benefit of the doubt, half of your coalition is not going to. Which means he's too toxic a pick, which means you cannot put him in charge of the thing. And the fact that she did just shows a lack of political awareness on the part of the campaign. That's what Nico House said in an interview with Craig Pasta-Jardula recently. He said, Cornel's campaign just shows a lack of awareness, a lack of direction, a lack of precision, a lack of strategy, to the point where I don't feel working people's dollars and volunteer hours are in good hands with the campaign, because I don't sense that there's a real urgency, a real clarity of purpose and mission at the top. So that's kind of where I am now.
It
I wish the
feels
campaign well. I really hope he does well.
Yeah,
Like, I
me
don't
too.
wish the campaign harm at all.
If I can,
But at this time, I just can't
Yeah, go ahead,
direct
Kit.
people to invest it. I feel like I couldn't in good conscience tell people, oh yeah, write $100 check to the Cornel West campaign. They'll put it to great use. I can't say that at all.
100% spot on with Keenan's analysis. Look, I've been rereading The Prince and the Discourses. I have a book with both Machiavelli's work all put together in there. And I've been thinking about what Dr. West was doing. And the thing is, if he wasn't truly engaged in the decision making and Jill Stein wasn't aware, that tells me as commanders or as chieftains that they are unaware of what's happening in the environment around them and just how important it is for a third-party movement to happen. I can't tell the audience, your audience, Keaton's audience, my audience, anybody to really get invested in this campaign if you are going to associate yourself with somebody who did everything he could to discredit progressives, Bernie Sanders supporters, and Green Party people. I'm pretty sure all of us have heard the stories in Philly. In my experience, Daniel Lupker and I, we were there in Philly. We were there in the Wells Fargo Center on the last day when Hillary Clinton was named the nominee. And I saw violence. I saw Bernie Sanders supporters getting attacked, spit on. I saw what happened to Green Party supporters being attacked. I spoke to Bernie Sanders delegates on how they were assaulted, and that's all I could say, or how they were stalked or threatened or got threatening phone calls. Was Peter Daou in that room when the decision was made to harass these people? Was Peter Daou aware of what was happening to Bernie Sanders delegates? Did Peter Daou give the green light to that? I don't know. I could speculate, but all their stories were the same. And afterwards, there was an onslaught of attack towards us and anyone that wanted to be an independent thinker. Dr. Jill Stein, Dr. Cornel West, you both are incredibly smart academic intellectuals that I can look up to. And I could say, hey, you're a power level above me. But in regards to vetting people, I question their judgment thoroughly. All right. Now, if people want to still support Dr. Cornel West, that's their power. But knowing that there's a UAW strike and they chose to go to a climate environmentalist rally is a big question, right? And I understand, hey, we're only on this one planet, but a workers' strike seems to elevate it more because, again, this election, it's not going to be about identity. And I understand social issues, social identity is important, but at the end of the day, I think we all can agree it's always going to be about the dollars. People are people, and we're going to care about dollars. I don't care where you stand. It's always going to be about the money. And the thing is, what I'm concerned about is Dr. West is not going to be fully engaged because Peter Daou is going to be advising him to fall off a cliff. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be so wrong, and I want to apologize on this network and every other network, say, hey, I was wrong. But for some reason, in the back of my mind, I see it playing out, and I just can't tell people, hey, let's vote for Dr. Cornel West, because I just, if Peter Daou is his campaign manager, his general, I don't think he can achieve absolute victory. And I invite him to be on your show, on Keaton's show, on my show, to maybe prove us wrong. But I have serious doubts in his ability. And plus, a campaign manager needs to be in the shadows, not on the front lines. And he tweeted himself out like, hey, this is a big day for me. No, baby, you have to be in the sidelines, in the shadows. It's all about West, not about you.
And so what I have, so Dr. West and Dr. Stein, they're both people that I would say I looked up to, and they're both, I would consider friends. We've had them both on the network many times. We're going to have both of them on a network in the future. And nothing that I would not say directly to them. I think both of them know that. I've had conversations with them, frankly, about things, and I think they know that. I'm not sure. The way I would describe what both of you are kind of describing, one of you used checked out. I would describe this as, this is a blind spot because of their professional managerial class, or this is a blind spot because they are so distant from the actual people, the actual people invested in participating, not issues. You can be invested in issues and doing that things, but are you invested in understanding the people who you want to participate?
Right.
There's no level of understanding about that.
True.
There's none. And it speaks to the professional managerial class. And this is what I said in my individual video, is that it feels like no one else is in this thought roundtable of this campaign, but people from the professional managerial class. It doesn't feel like the decisions, like people who are distant from the conversations, political conversations of the peoples, of voters. Like I would say we are some of the closer to the actual voters on the ground. Those are the people in our audiences, in our chats, right?
Right.
So we are hearing directly, we getting a direct influence of, no, Peter Daou, this is terrible. You get what I'm saying? Like, we're getting a direct influence of this. And it's not even specifically, even before the Marianne Williamson campaign, just little things would conjure up people's thoughts about Peter Daou. You would see a tweet here and a video there, you know what I mean? And it was the same sort of reaction. It feels like, and it's not an age thing. It could be age, but it's not an age thing. It feels like they are disconnected. You know what I mean? Like, somebody else runs their Twitter. They're not on Twitter seeing the conversations. You get what I'm saying?
I hear you.
It's a different sort of understanding of what happened. And then the other thing why I say the critique of the professional managerial class, because you have to understand people who view academics, who view accomplishments, who view reaching things. They would put the accolades of Peter Daou above the reaction. You get what I'm saying? Because a person in that class would think, well, yeah, you're gonna be pissed, but get over it. Look at his background. You know what I mean? It's a sort of blind spot that you could have if you don't have anybody but professional managerial class people in the room. That's not something they would ever think of, because if nobody in this conversation about Peter Daou, not a single person stood up and said, are we out of our fucking mind? If nobody said that,
yeah,
then something's wrong. You get what I'm saying? There has to, tell me about the conversation. Who gave the pushback? If nobody was doing that, then something is wrong here. And you have an echo chamber in your circle here. And go ahead, whoever wanted to.
I wanted to say, I just want to say this,
ahead,
and I'll hand it over to you, Keen, because
No,
I'll make it short and simple. But in all of this decision making, I just got to ask, where the goddamn hell was Chris Hedges at, and why is he radio silent? Is there anything he wants to add to this? Because I know he can't feign ignorance. Chris Hedges has no excuse to feign ignorance on Peter Daou and what happened in 2016. Because again, with the announcement of Peter Daou, I had flashbacks of when I first went to Philly. I was green. I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember what I saw. And I remember what was happening to Bernie Sanders supporters and delegates and volunteers. Where's Chris Hedges at? What are your thoughts, Chris Hedges? You brought Dr. Weston to the Green Party. Jill Stein was the interim campaign manager at the time. Was there any thought of what the hell, Peter Daou, a three-time, four-time loser? Go ahead, take it away, Keaton. That's all I got to say. Where's Chris Hedges? Where's Chris Hedges?
That's a very good question. And I think another point, just to build on what you guys are saying, where is the evidence of this great expertise that Peter Daou brings? Like, oh, yeah, no, he was a scumbag, but he's an effective scumbag, right? He knows how to run a campaign. I don't see any evidence of that whatsoever. I never have. Cornell spoke at that climate march in New York the other day. Where's the video of the full speech? Is that anywhere? I haven't seen it. I've seen bits and pieces. Peter Daou tweeted out a clip of it that's 1 minute and 6 seconds, which he shot from his phone. Cornell retweeted that. It's the last minute of the speech in which Cornell West, despite saying some really great things, I love the spirit of that speech. You know what he didn't mention in that speech? That he's running for president of the United States.
Thank
right?
you.
You're on stage at the climate march. It has tens of thousands of people there. You're given a speech, the message of which I think we can all agree was great. I mean, I love a lot of what Cornell has to say. At the end, what does he say? Here, I mean, I don't know. We could pull the video, CJ. I could show it. But he starts, he ends the speech by saying, here, I'll get it on my phone. I'm sorry. Bear with me, folks. A love supreme. Love supreme, a love supreme. Okay, that's wonderful. Where's I'm Cornel West, I'm running for president of the United States under the Green Party ticket, and you should vote for me.
Yeah.
He didn't bother saying that? So the Daou, who was there with him that day, experienced campaigner that he is. Oh, he's a pro. Yeah, we have to forgive him for all of his sins because he's a pro. He doesn't say, hey, Cornell, at the end of your speech, why don't you remind the crowd that you're running for president? No? Where's the video of the speech? No, we have cell phone footage. This guy's not an expert in shit. This guy is useless. I'm sorry, there's no evidence whatsoever that this guy is a professional and a skilled operative. He was a troll. He was a paid hatchet man, low-life troll in 2016. He's been that ever since. And there's no evidence whatsoever that he brings any great talent or skill set to the table that would even begin to compensate for his record of absolute treachery. So I'm just not seeing any evidence of it. None.
I think this is a pit of desperation. The campaign is clearly desperate to pick someone because this is what I wrote down. Because this is a contradiction. How do you say you know enough about him in the tweet? You know enough to know he's all his green background, his pro, but you don't know nothing else that was just 4 years ago? That was just 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Mm-hmm. Like that it doesn't fly. This is the reason why I say, we can't imagine somebody being this checked out on this level. I'm not saying checked out of policy. So something is happening in Iraq. You have an opinion. Something is happening in Ukraine. They are abreast of that. But what's happening in the conversations about the people, they don't have any idea what's going on. And to me, it's shown in deciding to go with the People's Party, and then you get embarrassed on these corporate media channels, and you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea. He's embarrassed in like 3 interviews.
Yeah, there's no.
They're asking him like, you don't know about the People's Party? He has
nobody's home. Nobody's home. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like you can't hire a cameraman for $100 to film his speech, so you have an official video of his speech at the climate march with 1,000 people in the audience. You don't have $100. You don't have a Green Party volunteer in New York State, where the Green Party probably has more volunteers than it does anywhere else in the country. Yeah. You don't have a volunteer with a fucking video camera who can mic them up so you can get a clean shot of the speech. We don't even get that from experienced Peter Daou.
Can I also add on here too? Look, I'm just going to say something pretty controversial here, but this is how I view it because I believe in third parties, or at least I still do, but maybe Roger Meadows, not maybe. Yes, Roger Meadows is correct. Abolish all political parties. But I interviewed 2 people who are running for the Libertarian nomination, and both their answers in regards to how to get 5% and above and afterwards the general election seem more coherent than anything that Peter Daou has given, okay? That's Oliver Chase and Lars Mapstead. They're both running for the Libertarian Party. Shout out to Larry Sharp, who got them both on my show. They had a much more better idea, and I don't know who their campaign managers are. They're still running for the nomination, but they were able to give me answers I wanted to hear in regards to how to build up their third party. So if the Libertarians are steps ahead of Peter Daou, this shows me, in my personal opinion, where Dr. Cornel West and the Green Party are going. And I want Dr. Cornel West and the Green Party to succeed. But if your general, your campaign manager, as again, Keenan, as you brought out, can't hire a camera guy, can't hire somebody to mic him up,
we get a partial version of the speech filmed off this fucking asshole's phone.
Can at least give me a 5-minute speech?
Right,
exactly. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Bare minimum.
I covered that yesterday, and I thought I just couldn't find it. So it doesn't exist.
Well, it might not find it. It may as well not exist. Why isn't it on Peter Dow's feed? Why isn't it on Cornel West's feed? All we have on either of their feeds is a 1 and 6 second video from Peter Dow's phone. What, he didn't take the whole thing on his phone? This is the great experience, Peter Daou.
Or where's the live stream of the full event? Wait. Where's the full live stream?
Maybe they're waiting to introduce it at a commercial. Maybe they're going to put it as part of an ad and they're waiting to introduce it there. I'm trying.
I
to
will
give it
happily
something.
retract my statement if and when
So
that day
will I.
comes. Yeah.
So will I. I'll gladly
I'm
apologize.
not holding my breath for it.
Yeah.
You know,
And again, we all want this to succeed. Like, for
Yeah.
example, in a perfect world, I think I can speak for both of you. Tomorrow they will say, because of the backlash, we are now have gotten rid of Peter Daou. They will add a little part in there like, P.S. he is a son of a bitch, after we researched him or something like that, you know. And then we are on a hunt for another campaign manager. Stand by. That would be
great.
invigorating to this campaign. That is literally like, I mean, it feels like the last week, more than week, like right before maybe it was the Jimmy Dore thing, and then just one thing after another. It just hasn't been.
Well, I'm glad you brought
the best
the Jimmy
week and
Dore
a
thing.
half. Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought the Jimmy Dore interview, because here's the thing. At least for all intents and purposes, from the interview that Peter Daou did with Sabrina, apparently he was in talks with Dr. Cornel West and Jill Stein before West got onto the Jimmy Dore show. So I'm wondering just how deep that relationship was, or the conversation that was happening back and forth. Because again, Keaton, you and Russell did a fantastic breakdown of Peter Daou, especially when he was with the Marianne Williamson campaign, because he had to drop out because of personal family issues. And that was 4 months ago. What the hell happened between then and now? So I have a lot of questions. How long has Peter Daou been talking to Dr. Cornel West? Was he truly advising him before the big announcement, or what? Because there's so many questions. And I think we all deserve answers. And I reached out to Dr. West. I was supposed to have him on sometime mid-September. Haven't heard anything. I even sent an email out to Dr. Jill Stein, because on the 29th.
I thought you had West on not too long ago. Didn't you just have him on not too long ago?
No. I only had him on once, like a few months ago. But it's, I did reach out to see if maybe we could have him on in September. And then for Jill Stein, the last email I got, like, she was open for the 29th. So I could have her on the show. But I sent an email just to confirm, kind of radio silence. And I'm just wondering, are we going to get a cold shoulder? I hope that's not the case.
No, maybe they're trying to. I'm trying to look in the bright side. Maybe they're trying to just wrangle the campaign, people who are part of the campaign, and talk about different strategies. Like, since they have a campaign manager, maybe they're trying to, like, really get this thing professionalized in a sense of a real well-oiled machine. So I'm hoping that could be it, Kit, and it's just
I hope so.
Takes a little while to get back, because again, none of us, if they got rid of Peter Daou tomorrow and hired somebody else, there will be a lot of people that will be happy and back to at least saying, I'm open to supporting the campaign. That would just, it just turns off so many people. It just doesn't make any sense unless you are that disconnected from what's going on. That's why I said it just doesn't make any sense. Here's a super chat. Let's see. This is about Peter Daou. This one said, that's terrible. Peter fails downward, not upward. Simple as. Okay, so here's another one, Daou. Thank you for that super chat, by the way. This account is pinned in review. This one says, Daou said he compromised his principles to elect the first woman president. I bet he changed because he changes when he thinks he should. I question his judgment and decision making and Dr. West's. And I just get a very car salesy vibe from him, even in the latest interview with Sabby. He was clearly trying to divert and not trying to answer questions. Like he wasn't really there to really squash what people thought. He's still making excuses, still denying some of the things like he's done. Like it really did not help. It really did not help the situation. It didn't help at all. The argument to say, hey, he's changed. If he went on to say, I've changed and let me show people I have, that's absolutely not how I walked away from the conversation. So we can wrap the Peter Daou, unless either one of you had any other words to say about him. We can wrap the Peter Daou conversation and move on to the big event. Yeah, we can move on to the big event. Actually, there's one more super chat I didn't put up. Let me put this one up here.
No, Russell unsubscribed. Yeah, Jimmy says that. Russell's in Greece right now. Russell's gonna
really?
He is
wow.
going to be on our show tomorrow. We have a stream tomorrow at 8
Good.
o'clock, and he will be logging in as long as the internet cooperates. He will be co-hosting from
Very good.
around the world tomorrow.
Very good. Very good.
Oh, that is going to be awesome.
we
How
send him our
far?
best.
What's the time difference again?
7 hours. So
7
what he
hours.
does, I mean, he did one because he was in Italy a couple weeks back, and we did one where he just wakes up in the middle of the night and does it. You know, it's a kind of a pain in the ass for him, but it's
Dedication.
at least out of the way.
Dedication.
It is dedication, absolutely. But it's also, it's kind of out of the way because it's in the middle of the night. So all he's got to do is wake up and drink some coffee and do it.